Captured by grace. What a perfect phrase for Louis Zamperini's story. Louis Zamperini's life reads like a modern-day parable of redemption. Born in 1917 to Italian immigrants, he was a mischievous, wild kid from Torrance, California, who found direction when he discovered running. His talent turned him into an Olympic athlete, competing in the 1936 Berlin Games. But when World War II came, his life took a sharp turn. As an airman in the Pacific, his plane went down during a mission. Louis and two crewmates drifted on a life raft for 47 harrowing days, battling hunger, thirst, sharks, and despair before being captured by the Japanese Navy. What followed was a nightmare, brutal years in POW camps under the sadistic guard known as the Bird. Louis was beaten, starved, humiliated, and broken in body, but not in spirit. When the war ended, he came home a hero on the outside, but a tormented man within. Nightmares, rage, and alcohol consumed him. His marriage nearly fell apart, but everything changed one night in 1949 when he reluctantly attended a Billy Graham crusade. There, Louis heard about forgiveness, how Christ could take the deepest wounds and replace them with peace. He gave his life to Christ that night, and the nightmares stopped. Louis didn't just survive the war, he was transformed by grace. He even traveled back to Japan to forgive his former captors. His life became a living testimony that no one is beyond redemption. The phrase captured by grace captures the heart of it. He was once captured by the enemy, then captured by anger and hate, but finally captured by the love of God that set him free. Louis Zamperini's life is a remarkable story of courage, survival, and redemption. Born in 1917 to Italian immigrants, he grew up in California as a rebellious boy who constantly got into trouble. Running gave him a sense of purpose, and his speed took him all the way to the 1936 Berlin Olympics, where he met Adolf Hitler and dreamed of breaking the 4-minute mile. When World War II began, Zamperini joined the U.S. Army Air Corps as a bombardier. During a mission over the Pacific, his plane crashed into the ocean. He and two crewmates drifted on a life raft for 47 days, battling hunger, thirst, and sharks before being captured by the Japanese Navy. For more than 2 years, he endured brutal conditions as a prisoner of war, especially under a cruel guard nicknamed the Bird. Beaten and humiliated daily, Louis suffered deeply, yet somehow survived. After the war, he returned home a celebrated hero, but inside, nightmares, bitterness, and alcohol tormented him. His marriage was crumbling, and his spirit was broken, until one night in 1949, when he attended a Billy Graham crusade. There, Louis heard the message of forgiveness through Jesus Christ. That night, he surrendered his life to God, and the nightmares that had haunted him vanished. Transformed by grace, Louis even returned to Japan to forgive his former captors. His story became a powerful witness to the truth that no one is too lost to be found, and no life is too broken to be redeemed. Born in 1917 to Italian immigrant parents, Louis grew up in Torrance, California, as a wild and defiant child. Constantly in trouble with teachers and police, he was the kind of boy everyone expected to end up in jail, or worse. But everything changed when his older brother, Pete, introduced him to running. The track became his escape and his training ground for discipline. His speed was astonishing. By high school, he was breaking records. By 19, he was on his way to the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin. In those tense pre-war Olympics, the young Zamperini impressed the world with his closing lap, so fast that Adolf Hitler himself asked to meet the boy with the fast finish. Louis left Germany dreaming of breaking the 4-minute mile and competing again in 1940, but history had other plans. When World War II erupted, Louis joined the U.S. Army Air Corps and became a bombardier on a B-24 bomber in the Pacific Theater. On a May morning in 1943, his plane went down during a rescue mission. In an instant, his dreams of Olympic glory vanished into a vast, merciless ocean. Adrift on a tiny life raft, Louis and two crewmates faced hunger, thirst, and circling sharks under a pitiless sun. Day after day, they prayed for rescue or rain. After 47 unimaginable days, Louis, barely alive, spotted land. But instead of safety, he and his companion were captured by the Japanese Navy. What followed was more brutal than the sea. For over 2 years, Louis endured the horrors of prison camps. One guard in particular, nicknamed the Bird, took pleasure in tormenting him. Daily beatings, starvation, and humiliation became routine. Yet even in the darkest hours, a small ember of defiance kept Louis alive. He refused to let hatred or pain destroy his will to survive. When the war finally ended, he returned home to parades and headlines. Outwardly, he was a war hero. Inwardly, he was a man in ruins. Nightmares of his captors tormented him. Bitterness and rage consumed him. He turned to alcohol to numb the pain, and his marriage began to crumble. Then, in 1949, everything changed. His wife, Cynthia, persuaded him to attend a Billy Graham crusade in Los Angeles. Louis went reluctantly, intending to leave halfway through, but the message of God's forgiveness pierced his heart. He remembered his prayers on the raft and in the prison camps, promises he had made to God if only he survived. That night, Louis Zamperini surrendered his life to Christ. In that moment, the nightmares stopped. The rage dissolved. The peace he could never find in war, fame, or drink came flooding in. Grace had done what sheer strength could not, heal the deepest wounds of his soul. In the years that followed, Louis dedicated his life to sharing his story. He even returned to Japan, not as a victim seeking revenge, but as a man set free, offering forgiveness to the very guards who had once beaten him. Some wept, some refused to see him, but Louis's heart was free. Louis Zamperini lived out his days as a messenger of hope, speaking to veterans, young people, and prisoners about the power of faith and forgiveness. His life declared that no one is beyond redemption, and no suffering is too deep for God's grace to reach. Louis Zamperini's journey reminds us all. He was once captured by war, captured by hatred, but finally and forever captured by grace.